students, in this session we are going to learn about two special attributes. One is a percent type and the second one is a percent row type attribute. So why these attributes are special? Because these attributes are very much helpful while variable declaration in a PL/SQL. So let's start with the concept of variables or use of variables in PL/SQL. So variables are declared and optionally initialized in the declarative section. So we have learned or we have observed so many examples before this session where we used to declare variables in a declare section and we used to assign values to those variables either in a declare section or in a executable section, that is nothing but begin section. So these variables are used and assign new values in the executable section, that is nothing but in the begin section. We can utilize those variables, or if we want to assign new values to those variables, we can do that. Then variables are passed as a parameters to PL/SQL subprograms. So here PL/SQL subprograms are nothing but procedures and functions. So if function or procedure requires some data to process, so to send those data items we require variables, because before sending that data we need to store that data first. So for that, variable is the option where we can store the information, and variables are used to hold the output of a PL/SQL subprogram or SQL select statement. So here PL/SQL subprogram is nothing but function, because only function returns value and we can store that value into the variable. And SQL select statement, so we have seen so many examples where we take data from a table, column data from a table, and we store that data into the variables with the help of a into clause. So this is about variables. Before going to start the percent type attribute, let's have one example. So here just observe, in the declare section we have two variables. One is a VID and the second one is a VName. So here I have mentioned data types for these two variables. The first data type is number, and in a bracket you can see the size, and the second data type is v_name, having data type varchar 2 of 30. So here size 3 and varchar 2 of 30, that is nothing but 30 size for the character data. It is my assumption. I am assuming that the employee ID and the column employee name, that is nothing but EMP-ID and EMP-name, are having data type like number and varchar 2 respectively. So here in the begin section, I am trying to retrieve data from employees table, like select employee ID, that is EMP-ID, EMP-name, into VID, VName. So here I am trying to retrieve data, column data, and with the help of an into clause, I am trying to put those values into the variables. From employees, and the condition is where employee ID is equal to 102. And after taking the data with the help of a putLine function, I just want to display those contents. But what is important to execute this particular PL/SQL block successfully, so the important thing is matching of a data type. So here my assumption is v underscore id variable is having number data type because this employee id column is also having number data type. Same for the v underscore name variable. I am assuming employee name is having varchar 2 of 30 data type. So here it may happen that employee ID may have different data type than number. So in that case, we may face an exception while program execution. So to avoid that, it is very important to match data types of a variables and the column. So here it is not possible to remember data types of all columns of the table. So we have %type attribute. So let's discuss about that. %type attribute is used to declare a variable according to a database column definition and another declared variable. The first line is a database column definition is nothing but the data type which is same as the column from the table. So here we can say employee ID is having number data type. So with the help of a %type attribute, I can assign the same data type to the variable without knowing the actual data type. And this %type attribute is prefixed with the database table and column name and the name of the declared variable. So the database table and column name, these two things are very important because with the help of a database table and column name, we are providing reference to declare variable, and the name of the declare variable is used when we want to declare variable according to another declared variable. At that time we need to use the name with this %type attribute. So here this is about the %type attribute. Let's discuss how we can declare it. So in a syntax you can see identifier, then we need to provide table name, then dot, whatever the column name from which we want to store data, and then we need to write %type and then semicolon. That %type is not case sensitive, so you can write it in a small case also. So in an example, one variable or identifier is there, v underscore emp underscore lname. It indicates that we are going to store last name from employees table. So here we can see the reference. First is employees, that is nothing but table name, dot last name, that is nothing but the column name, and then %type. Again, one more example is there, v underscore balance having data type number 7,2. This is nothing but the size for that balance variable. And then one more variable declaration is there, v underscore minimum balance, and if you have observed, the data type or the attribute value is v underscore balance %type. It means what? We are copying data type of the variable v balance and we are assigning the same data type to the v underscore minimum balance variable. And colon is equal to 1000 is nothing but initialization to the variable v underscore minimum balance. So this is how we can use %type attribute. So let's take one example over here. In a declare section, you can see v underscore eid. This is the variable, and here suppose I don't know the data type of a column emp underscore id. So here I have to write like employees, that is nothing but table name, dot emp id %time. Again same for the next variable v underscore ename, that is the identifier for variable name. Here I want to apply data type same like a emp name column. So I have to write employees, that is nothing but table reference, table name dot emp underscore name %type. So in the beginning, the code is like select emp id, emp name into v underscore eid and v underscore ename. So here we have tried to match the data type. So here we are avoiding exception, runtime or execution error. Next is from employees, that is nothing but table name, and the condition is where emp id is equal to 101. And with the help of a put line function, we are going to display the result. So if we execute the same code, so we will get output like employee id 101, because the condition is where emp id is equal to 101, and here we are getting name also. So this is how we can use %type attribute. So if I declare or if I execute the same code in our workspace area having the condition employee id is equal to 102, let's see what output we will get. So here employee id we are getting 102 and employee name Steve. So you can use this variable for, or you can use the same block for various values. So here when I change employee id is equal to 103 in a condition, I am getting result like this. So this is how we can use this %type attribute. Now the next is about %rowtype attribute. So here we can declare a variable according to a collection of columns in the database, table or view. The prefix %rowtype with the database, table or view, and fields in the record take their names and data type from the columns of the table or view. It simply means that when we want to take data from multiple tables, and if we want to make that data retrieval as a record, at that time we can use %rowtype attribute. So the syntax to declare such attribute is, in the declare section we need to write identifier name and then reference. The reference can be table or view. After that we need to write %rowtype. So here one example is there. In a declare, one identifier is there, emp underscore data, from the table employees %rowtype. So in a begin section, I am trying to retrieve all the data. So the query is select star from, not from directly, into that identifier from employees where emp id is equal to 101. And with the help of a put line function, I am displaying data like employee id. So here emp id dot column name. Next is also emp underscore data dot column name. Then emp data dot column name. So this is how we can retrieve data from the table with the help of a %rowtype attribute. If we execute the same example